What is going on, YouTube people? Cards and Comics here. We are on backup equipment. I am on like hour 30 of no power. You may or may not have seen the weekly sports card market update yet. It has been recorded. It's on my desktop machine, which I don't currently have access to because I don't have power. So if it comes up overnight, I'll upload it and you'll see this video after that one. If the power's still out, you're watching this one. So this will either go up on Monday or Tuesday. We're gonna have a little bit of story time chit chat again today. Weird week last week, not a weird week, kind of a sad week. A friend of the family passed away. A close friend of the family passed away. A very good friend of my father's, who I have known as well growing up. His name was Mark. The reason why we're talking about this today is the subject of today's video is why is it that we collect? Why are we all here? I get it. It's been kind of a crappy week news-wise with the Breakers Breaking Bad and staged content and a lot of drama and all this and that. And sometimes I think we just need to get back to or just revisit a touchstone of why it is that a lot of us are here. I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush, but I think what we're going to discuss today kind of sums up why a lot of us are in this given space. So the story time portion of this is, growing up, my dad was a big sports fan. We went to, Indians games a lot. Didn't do a lot of basketball or a lot of football. But when I was a little kid, we would go to Municipal Stadium all the time. Joe Carter, Corey Schneider, Julio Franco, Andre Thornton. Those are my Tom Candiotti, Doug Jones. Those are my Indians as a kid. His really good friend, Mark, who passed away this week, was an Indian season ticket holder even when they were god-awful in the 80s. So I was raised around sports, but Mark was big into sports cards. He was my introduction to collecting cards. On the couple times a year we would go to a game with him, we would go over to his house, we would ride up with him. He would give me some packs of cards. And then that would lead into me buying the team sets at the stadium, at the souvenir stand. That was really my first taste of collecting as a probably 6 to 8 to 9-year-old. And that was the match that was the spark that lit the rebellion. It was then in my bones. And then, I branched out and begun collecting other things. I always collected sports cards, on and off throughout the years of my life. But then I started collecting comic books, non-sports cards, Marvel cards, Magic the Gathering. I've always been a collector, I guess, once that bug bit me and got it in me. And I think why a lot of us like to do it, especially at this age, and I feel like I'm speaking, most of my audience, I think, is going to relate to this, because if you look at my YouTube demographics, it's 35 to 45-year-olds are the bulk of my audience. So we're kind of all of the similar age group. Not all, but a lot of us. And this is something Flipping Steve's touched on. And then someone else mentioned it, and I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. You know who you are if you'll hear this. In my comments on a video earlier this week about kind of getting back to basics and just remembering why we kind of all do this. And I think a big reason why is that we are, listen, don't get me wrong. Spending 50 on a card and selling it for 150, that feels really great. That's fun. That's cool. And, when you profit, it's nice, but I really don't think that's the main reason a lot of us are here. Really, what we're doing is we are, at this point in time in our lives, anyways, most of us, we're collecting memories. We are collecting thoughts and feelings and how we felt at a certain time in our lives. And the cardboard, the expensive paper, whatever it is that you collect, cards, comics, TCG, whatever it is, triggers a memory for you in a lot of cases. Not all of them, but a lot. I'll give some examples. I've recently kind of gone down a Manny Ramirez deep dive. And it's been fun chasing those, because every time that I get a new one, or I flip through my 90s Indians autograph collection, it sparks memories of that 95, 96, 97 team, specifically the 95 team. That was, as a 14-year-old, having the 95 Indians with the Brown, that was right after the Browns left, as the peak of their powers. There's a lot of good memories there. I used to go to spring training all the time with my dad and with Mark, the gentleman that passed away. I'd go down there and enjoy Winter Haven, Florida, and chase autographs and all this sort of stuff. And then, I've talked about this before. Marvel cards. When I put hands on a set of 91 MU, 90 MU, 92 MU, X-Men 92 Jim Lee, all that early 90s stuff, that sparks very strong memories for me. When I got first introduced to those cards, I started buying packs from the local grocery store. Then I kind of put the pieces together, realized what this was, and then I started chasing the sets. And I chased the sets at the flea market with my grandfather. My grandfather, in the summers, we would go fishing and we would go to the flea market. We would go to Rogers Flea Market. Anyone in that Southeast Ohio area will know what Rogers Flea Market is. It still exists today. It's a very, very large flea market. We would go there whenever they would run that. We would go to some other local flea markets in the Eastern Ohio, Western Pennsylvania area, once or twice a week, just depending on the schedule or whatever. And there would always be the comic book or sports card guy or 2 or 3 set up at those. And I have vivid memories of just spending time with my grandfather and digging through those long boxes, spending my allowance money, trying to fill in the gaps of these sets, and having the entire set memorized. I didn't even need a piece of paper. I knew exactly what cards I needed from 90 and 91 and 92 Jim Lee X-Men and those various Marvel sets as they released. I knew dead on what I needed. I didn't need a checklist. I didn't need nothing. I could just tell flipping through if I had it or not, because that's how much time I spent looking at those cards. But like when I re-ripped those boxes over the last couple of years on the channel, just in the back of my mind, putting my hands on those packs, opening that pack up would just revitalize the memories of those summers with my grandpa at the flea market. Now, I'm lucky my grandfather's still alive. I still get to see him, hang out with him. But it's still a very vivid memory in my mind. Same thing with comic books, similar stories. Same thing with certain sports cards. Trigger certain memories. I was looking at, I picked up that Shawn Michaels auto a week ago, and that took me back to another point in time in my life, in the late 90s, like my junior, senior year of high school, freshman year of college, during the Attitude Era, 98, 99, 2000. And me and my close friends go into, the local, Raw, when Monday Night Raw would come to Cleveland, or the pay-per-views would come around, or even the local house shows would come to Youngstown State every once in a while, to Beagley Center. Or the group of guys that I worked with at Giant Eagle, they would, the one guy, the dairy manager, he would always rent the pay-per-views. And we would always go to his house, me and my buddies that I work with at Giant Eagle, and we would watch all the pay-per-views, and we just had a blast. And those were really fun times. And just, looking at that Shawn Michaels card and kind of holding that, just, it was almost like a time machine, and kind of took me back in time to that point in my life. And I feel like that's what a lot of us are doing. We're chasing a feeling, a memory, a way that we felt for a simpler time in our lives, whether it's people that are no longer here, friends that are no longer here, or people that you've just lost touch with, because that's just kind of the way life goes. And these little pieces of cardboard, these expensive pieces of paper, are a vehicle to transport us back to those times in our lives with those friends, family, former friends. And I think that's a big reason why a lot of us are here. We might not want to admit it. It doesn't sound fun and flashy. It doesn't make a good YouTube clickbait thumbnail. I didn't spend $5,000 on memories and sell it for $10,000 in memories. Listen, that stuff's fun too. It is. I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't fun to buy a card for $500 and sell it for $1,000. But at its base level, we are collecting memories and a pathway to trigger those memories in the way that we felt. So I know that this could get a lot of drama-y sometimes with all the nonsense and shenanigans that goes on in the wonderful sports card world. Is it even still a hobby anymore? Yes, for some people. No, for other people. Whatever. But at its core level, let's not forget a big piece of why at least a good portion of us are here. It might not be everything that we do in the collectible world, but at least a good portion of it is chasing a memory. That's all I got for you, boys and girls. Catch you on the next one. Peace.